Second BPT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Vishnupada Paramachandra Acharya Srila Srila Mr. Venger Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki, Guru Parampara ki, Satguru Shamrata ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Friends of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vaishnava Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gangamai Yamunamai Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani ki, Mayapur Vrindavan Dham ki, पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, श्री श्री प्रहलाद नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, श्री श्री राधा माधव की, श्री श्री गुरुवायूरप्पन स्वामी की, श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र महारानी की, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण टेम्पल प्रोजेक्ट की, श्री प्रभुपाद ट्रांसफर बुकलेशन प्रोग्राम की, ऑल ग्लोरीज assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious, all glorious, all glorious, Guru and Gauranga, all glorious Krishna Prabhu. चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिधि नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय नरसिंह जय जय श्री नरसिंहदेव। प्रहलादेश जय पद्मा मुखापद्मा भृंगा। उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं बीजनं भद्रं मृत्युर्नमाम्यहम्। ॐ नरसिंहाय नमः, ॐ महासिंहाय नमः, ॐ दिव्यसिंहाय नमः, ॐ महाबलाय नमः, ॐ उग्रसिंहाय नमः, ॐ महादेवाय नमः, ॐ सम्पदाय नमः, ॐ उग्रलोचनाय नमः, ॐ रौद्राय नमः, ॐ सर्वद्भुताय नमः, ॐ श्रीमनाय नमः, ॐ योगानन्दाय नमः, ॐ त्रिविक्रमाय नमः, ॐ हरिणे नमः, ॐ कोलाहलाय नमः, ॐ चक्रिणे नमः, ॐ जयाय नमः, ॐ जयवर्धनाय नमः, ॐ पञ्चगणाय नमः, ॐ परब्रह्माय नमः, ॐ अघोराय नमः, ॐ घोरविक्रमाय नमः, ॐ जलानुगाय नमः, ॐ जलामालिने नमः, ॐ महाजलाय नमः, ॐ महाप्रभुवाय नमः, ॐ नीतिलक्षाय नमः, ॐ सहस्राक्षाय नमः, ॐ सुनिरीक्षाय नमः, ॐ प्रदानाय नमः, ॐ महादंशाय नमः, ॐ युधप्रज्ञाय नमः, ॐ चण्डगोपते नमः, ॐ सदाशिवाय नमः, ॐ हरिणकशिमुत्तंसिने नमः, ॐ दैत्यदानवमर्दनाय नमः, ॐ पुनवस्त्राय नमः, ॐ महावस्त्राय नमः, ॐ फलवस्त्राय नमः, ॐ सुभद्राय नमः, ॐ करलाय नमः, ॐ विकरलाय नमः, ॐ विगताय नमः, ॐ सर्वकार्तिकाय नमः, ॐ सुषुमाराय नमः, ॐ त्रिलोकात्माय नमः, ॐ ईशाय नमः, ॐ सर्वेश्वराय नमः, ॐ विभुवाय नमः, ॐ पैगम्बराय नमः, ॐ दिव्याय नमः, ॐ अच्युताय नमः, ॐ काविने नमः, ॐ माधवाय नमः, ॐ अधोक्षजाय नमः, ॐ अक्षराय नमः, ॐ सर्वाय नमः, ॐ वनमालिने नमः, ॐ वरप्रदाय नमः, ॐ विश्वम्भराय नमः, ॐ अद्भुताय नमः, ॐ भाव्याय नमः, ॐ श्रीविष्णुवे नमः, ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः, ॐ अनुगस्त्राय नमः, ॐ नगस्त्राय नमः, ॐ सूर्यज्योतिने नमः, ॐ सुरेश्वराय नमः, ॐ सहस्रबाहुवाय नमः, ॐ सर्वज्ञाय नमः, ॐ सर्वसिद्धिप्रदायकाय नमः, ॐ वज्रदंशाय नमः, ॐ वज्रनगाय नमः, ॐ महानन्दाय नमः, ॐ परमतपाय नमः, ॐ सर्वमन्त्रैकरूपाय नमः, ॐ सर्वयन्त्रविदारमाय नमः, ॐ सर्वतन्त्रात्मकाय नमः, ॐ अव्यक्ताय नमः, ॐ सुव्यक्ताय नमः, ॐ भक्तवत्सलाय नमः, शुक्लभुतोत्ताय नमः, ॐ सनातनवत्सलाय नमः, ॐ उदारकीर्तिने नमः, ॐ पुण्यात्माय नमः, ॐ महात्माय नमः, ॐ चन्द्रविक्रमाय नमः, ॐ वेदात्रयाय नमः, ओम प्रभुज्याय नमः। ओम भगवानाय नमः। ओम परमेश्वराय नमः। ओम श्रीवत्संगाय नमः। ओम जगत्यामिने नमः। ओम जगन्मायाय नमः। ओम जगत्पालाय नमः। ओम जगन्नाथाय नमः। ओम महाकाय नमः। ओम त्रिविरूपप्रदाय नमः। ओम परमात्माय नमः। ओम परमज्योतिने नमः। ओम निर्गुणाय नमः। ओम निर्देशिने नमः। ओम परतत्वाय नमः। ओम परधामाय नमः। ओम सच्चिदानंद विग्रहाय नमः। ओम लक्ष्मी नरसिंहाय नमः। ओम सर्वात्माय नमः। ओम धीराय नमः। ओम प्रहलादपालकाय नमः। ओम उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं बीजनं भद्रं मृत्युर्नमाम्यहम्। जय नरसिंहा जय नरसिंहा जय श्री नरसिंह जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे। श्री गुलाम नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महाराज की, श्री दाई गौर सुंदर की। हरि ओम श्री राम। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Rama, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Hare Rama, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Hare Rama, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Hare Rama, Krishna Yadavaya Namaha,
Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jayasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chiva Narottamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the evening. I think this has been chosen because the Bhakti Vaibhav session students are also going through the same chapter, and therefore I think this has been particularly chosen. So I'll read a few selected verses from this, and we can then recollect some aspects of the wonderful purports of Srila Prabhupada and what lessons we can learn from this particular pastime. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, Text 18. Sarva Shaman Upadaya Swa Shamena Kalatravan Vyasanarnavam Atyeti Jalayaneryatarnavam. Translation: as one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. I'll repeat that shloka again. Sarva Shamanupadaya Swashamena Kalatravan Vyasanarnavam Atyeti Jalayaneryatarnavam. As one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Purport: there are 4 social orders for cooperation in the endeavor for liberation from material existence. The orders of brahmacharya or pious student life, household life with a wife, retired life and renounced life all depend for successful advancement on the householder who lives with a wife. This cooperation is essential for the proper functioning of the institution of the 4 social orders and the 4 spiritual orders of life. This Vedic Varnashrama system is generally known as the caste system. The man who lives with a wife has a great responsibility in maintaining the members of the other social orders, the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. Except for the grihasthas or the householders, everyone is supposed to engage in the spiritual advancement of life, and therefore the brahmachari, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi have very little time to earn a livelihood. They therefore collect alms from the grihasthas, and thus they secure the bare necessities of life and cultivate spiritual understanding. By helping the other 3 sections of society cultivate spiritual values, householder also makes advancement in spiritual life. Ultimately, every member of society automatically becomes spiritually advanced and easily crosses the nescience, the ocean of nescience. Very interesting shloka. Okay, 3.14.19. Yam ahuratmano hi ardham shreyas kamasya manini yasyam swadhuram adhyasya pumams charati vijvaraha. O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. a man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. Purport: by the Vedic injunction, the wife is accepted as the better half of a man's body because she is supposed to be responsible for discharging half of the duties of the husband. A family man has a responsibility to perform 5 kinds of sacrifices called Panchayagya in order to get relief from all kinds of unavoidable sinful reaction incurred in the course of his affairs. When a man becomes qualitatively like the cats and dogs, he forgets his duties in cultivating spiritual values, and thus he accepts his wife as a sense gratificatory agency. When the wife is accepted as a sense gratificatory agency, personal beauty is the main consideration. And as soon as there is a break in personal sense gratification, there is disruption or divorce. But when husband and wife aim at spiritual advancement by mutual cooperation, there is no consideration of personal beauty or the disruption of so-called love. In the material world, there is no question of love. Marriage is actually a duty performed in mutual cooperation as directed in the authoritative scriptures for spiritual advancement. Therefore, marriage is essential in order to avoid the life of cats and dogs who are not meant for spiritual enlightenment. Yam ashrityenendriyartin durjayan itara shamayhi vayam jaye mahelabhir dasyun durgapatir yatha. As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers, by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in the other social orders. Of the 4 orders of human society, the student or brahmachari order, the household or grihastha order, the retired or vanaprastha order, and the renounced or sannyasi order, the householder is on the safe side. The bodily senses are considered plunderers of the fort of the body. The wife is supposed to be the commander of the fort, and therefore, whenever there is an attack on the body by the senses, it is the wife who protects the body from being smashed. The sex demand is inevitable for everyone, but one who has a fixed wife is saved from the onslaught of the sense enemies. A man who possesses a good wife does not create a disturbance in society by corrupting virgin girls. Without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee, the first order, and is a nuisance in society unless he is trained brahmachari, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Unless there is a rigid and systematic training of the brahmachari by the expert spiritual master, and unless the student is obedient, it is sure that the so-called brahmachari will fall prey to the attack of sex. There are so many instances of fall down even for great yogis like Vishwamitra. A grihastha is saved, however, because of his faithful wife. Sex life is the cause of material bondage, and therefore it is prohibited in 3 ashramas and is allowed only in the grihastha ashrama. The grihastha is responsible for producing first quality brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. So, Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This conversation is taking place. Just a quick recap for those who are not the Bhakti Vaibhav students. This conversation is taking place on the request of inquiries put for Shukadeva Goswami by Parikshit Maharaj, and also here is a description going on about Lord Varaha. And in the process of discussing Varaha, Swayambhuva Manu and his wife Shatarupa, the situation with the cosmos, that the earth had fallen down, is also discussed. From there comes the description of Varaha who came to lift the earth. That happened in the Swayambhuva Manvantara. In the Chakshusha Manvantara, it is mentioned that also Varaha appeared and killed the demon Hiranyaksha. Then there was a question about Hiranyaksha. And then this whole description started about how Hiranyaksha was born of Diti and Kashyapa. And he had a brother called Hiranyakashipu. So that will also come forth later. So the pregnancy of Diti in the evening is the heading of this chapter. That's a very odd and completely different type of an activity that is described for a grahastha. That too of a high order grahastha like Kashyapa and Ati. So that story is being discussed. And the instances that 13 daughters of Daksha were given to Kashyapa because he is Prajapati as to procreate. Kashyapa is the son of Marichi, sage, the great sage Marichi. And he's got married to 13 of Daksha's daughters. And this is one of them, Diti. And she has got a feeling that my other sisters have all become pregnant and got children. But I alone don't have that fortune. So, you're a married grahastha, putrahinam griham shunyam. One of the most important things you do immediately is to get children when you're married. Then your grahastha life becomes complete with children. Putrahinam griham shunyam. Without children, especially a son, griham is shunyam. Your grahastha life is zero. So you can call yourself a grahastha the moment you get a child, at least. But they were all getting children in hundreds and thousands. They are all Prajapati's wives. So naturally, Diti is having that anxiety, I am not having children. Because her husband is a very saintly man. And you can see that the description here is, she's becoming very, very lusty. Plus the thought of, I'm not having a son. So she, unable to control her lust, as is mentioned here, unable to even control her feelings about having a child, she goes shamelessly, it is mentioned, at the evening time. And that is a time when everybody is involved in Sandhya Aarti, and because that's the time it's not very auspicious to be outside, not very auspicious to be doing certain type of activities, because Lord Shiva is roaming around with his followers, ghosts and goblins and pisachas and everybody. And it is mentioned, if you at all engage in any such activity as an intercourse, then you will get very horrible progeny. And so therefore at that time when he is roaming around on his Nandi vehicle, he goes around, and whoever is doing anything like this that is off the dharmic platform, then he, implants his ghosts and goblins. And it's very inauspicious time. So therefore, that time she has chosen, or rather it has happened to her at that time. And she's approaching him. And it is very amazing that it is twilight. And he is sitting in the sacrificial arena, performing sacrifice. And he's in a trance. He's in a complete trance. All these things are described. And it is not at all the right time. And it's an inauspicious time. So it's very important to know how the situation has been created, why it is created like that. And Diti is also in a completely different mode. She is, it's mentioned here by Prabhupada, crazed by lust. So all these four things was, the sun was setting, it was twilight, He was in the sacrificial arena and he was in a trance. And he had just finished worshipping Vishnu. And it is described here that Vishnu is the tongue of fire. So Kashyapa Muni was in a completely different mode, right opposite, 180 degrees opposite to her. She is lusty and she's thinking about all these things, and he's in a trance having worshipped Vishnu in the yajna. And Diti is very beautiful looking. So she wakes him up by loudly speaking to him. In order to wake up somebody who's in a trance, you have to, distract him. So it is mentioned here that similarly, Samika Rishi, Parikshit Maharaj went and he was in a trance. He did not see Parikshit Maharaj at all, and he was in a different world altogether. Parikshit Maharaj also could not distract him, could not distract Samika Rishi. He put an elephant around he put a snake around his neck and left in disgust, frustrated. But you see here, it is mentioned that Kashyapa Muni was in a trance, but he woke up because he heard his wife's voice. He was able to come out of the trance because of his wife speaking very loudly. So it is mentioned also that Diti is actually a very cultured lady and she is high class personality. But when she becomes crazed by lust, then she can find no other shelter but her wife, but her husband. And she goes and approaches him. And the conversation is actually very mature from Kashyapa Muni. It's interesting to know that sometimes people just talk about one aspect of this particular chapter, that, oh, she's lusty and therefore they got demons and all that. But the way Kashyapa Muni is handling it is very interesting. He's in a trance and she's approaching him like this. And he gives her a hearing. It's mentioned he talks and starts advising her because he's quickly calculated that if I can get past this particular inauspicious moment, then I can do what she wants. But I can't do anything now for her. So I better bide time by talking to her. So that's why he's talking all these things. Oh, wonderful lady you are. What we read. How can a man live without a wife? The wife is like a fort. You see, are these the things that a person will speak to his, wife in such a situation? No, they may not. But it's mentioned here by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also that he was biding time. So he could have refused, Prabhupada says. He could have refused her with strong words expressing impossibility. Impossible at this time. It's twilight, it's sunset. I've just finished the yajna. I'm in a trance. You disturbed me. And, this is inauspicious time. Forget it. He could say that. But he was not doing that. And the reason Prabhupada is giving is he was also not so strong a person like Vidura. Prabhupada is comparing here Vidura and Kashyapa Muni. Vidura obviously was very strong in terms that he could, do certain things fit for his spiritual life. But quite often people are not strong enough. And this is here a comment made about Kashyapa Muni not being strong enough to avoid the inauspicious proposal of his wife. So this is the setting. And this description of him placating, satisfying his wife. Oh, how wonderful you are. So, such a wonderful wife. And you're so loyal to me. And you're pativrati. You're, these type of things he's telling her. You're the protector of the fort. All this. This is the setting under which we are reading this particular. And where it is mentioned, Sarva Shaman Upadaya Swa Ashramena Karatravan Vyasanarnava Matyeti Jalayaner Yatarnavam. As one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Now, for some people, it becomes a very nice verse, especially for those who are brahmacharis and are on the platform of trying to make a decision, should I be a grihastha or remain a brahmachari? When they read these things, they feel, wow, it's very nice, very comforting. That a wife is like a boat, a seagoing vessel, and you can cross over using the wife. Oh, wonderful. The wife is a fort, and she's the commander, and she will maintain this thing. How nice. This is ideal grahastha life. And obviously, this instance is not a grahastha's activity of engaging in a sexual intercourse when the sun is setting. Obviously, it is not. And even in the life of Kashyapa Muni and this thing, by the influence of lust, this can happen. This can happen. And here the comment given is, Kashyapa could not stop it. He was not strong enough to stop it. So can you just imagine in Kali Yuga, in this section of, in this age, what will be the condition? If a similar event is happening, what would be the situation? You can just imagine. However, we should know what is the ideal situation, what does the Shastra says, the duty of a grahastha, and what is grahastha living. So these things are very true. There's no doubt about that. And here is the glorification of the wife. How wonderful a position she holds, and how she is like a great support for the husband. And this is the real function of a wife. The real function of a wife is to help the husband. Throughout here you read that the wife is a great supporter, a great helper towards a husband who is seeking Krishna consciousness in full. And she is going to get benefit because of playing this role. This is the way she makes advancement in spiritual life. Prabhupada goes further to say it is the business, the grahastha, to maintain the other three orders. That is brahmacharya, vanaprastha and sannyasi, who are not entering into this type of a partnership. And it is the duty of the grahasthas to maintain them because they are going to be full-time engaged in spiritual life. Just remember, brahmachari, vanaprastha and sannyasi are 24 hours engaged. But a grahastha need not be. He need not be. And it is mentioned that by serving the other three orders, they make progress in spiritual life. Basically, economic support. In these days, economic means roti, kapada, makan. Whatever the vanaprastha, sannyasi and brahmachari require for their simple staying, living, food, and extra whatever is required, that should be provided by the grahastha. It's an indication given here. Because in that lies progress for the grahastha. This is how society is woven together. Grahastha is given license for enjoyment, but those things are never given for the other three ashramas. There's no chance of them indulging in anything like this. Okay? It's prohibited strictly. So, the relationship between the wife and the husband is mentioned here. The wife is the better half, and she takes half the responsibility of the husband. Why? Today, there will be a different thing. Equal gender, responsibilities, equal gender opportunities, and equality and egalitarian society, etc., etc. In these situations, but it is not without those considerations inside here. You see, it is the duty of the husband to look after the wife very much. And that's what Kashyapa is doing. She needs it. at this point of time. She's disturbed by lust very much. I cannot be selfishly saying, get lost either. And I must also do my support for her. If you talk in these terms, you'll see that Kashyapa Muni is making that comment here. It is, and she's saying it's the duty of a husband like you to satisfy the wife. Isn't it not your duty? You must do it. And he's not going against it by citing rules and regulations. That may be the type of flaw. But he is soft towards his wife. He wants to satisfy her. In the same way, you can compare this proposal of Devahuti, which is coming, Devahuti with Kardama. Kardama Muni is watching his wife perform such austerity to serve him that she has become so thin and frail. A beautiful princess has become a nobody. And seeing that, he feels a great obligation to her. And out of that feeling of obligation, he said, you've served me so well. I must do my side of it. And he asked her, what do you want? And she says, what does a wife want? Wife wants children. And I want to engage with you, have children, and have a family life. That's my inclination. That's my intention. That's my strong purpose. This is what wives naturally want in the Varnashrama system. And Kardama, he more than satisfies her because of your unstinted, unreserved service to me. I want to reward you. I want to give you the best of gratification, the best of staying places, the best of children, and the best of everything for your Grihastha life. This is allowed. Everything is within the domain and the ambit of Grihastha life. So Devahuti got a response by working for it very sincerely and eliciting that response from Kardama Muni. She was very sophisticated in getting children and family life and the desires satisfied. This is the duty of the husband to satisfy the wife in terms of her material desires. You can call it material desire. And at the same time, her desire to have children and be a mother and have affectionate children and express her affection to them and receive affection from them. And in this way, this is very natural. This is called womanhood. And this womanhood is very important in Grihastha life. And more, it's important the whole Varnashrama system, the whole community and society of Varnashrama. This is a key factor, the role of the woman as a wife, as a mother, as a social hub. Extremely important role. And that's how this whole system is functioning of Varnashrama. And that's how everybody in that system are able to focus on Krishna and do what is required and go back to Godhead along with the wives. This is a design. It's been designed. And if you break it anywhere and spoil it everywhere and nip it and clip it, it doesn't function actually. And today, of course, it's totally broken. Today is the day when the wives are demanding from the husband, I want to go to work like you. Like you. Forget the womanhood, forget all the woman responsibilities, everything. And so that womanhood aspect completely breaks. And the woman is no more the type of woman that the husband needs as a support. That's why Prabhupada is saying, if it does not happen, it results in divorce. If that support is not given, Prabhupada is saying here, when the wife is accepted as a sense gratificatory agency, personal beauty is the main consideration. And as soon as there is a break in personal sense gratification, there's disruption or divorce. The key subtle principle should be understood of a successful Grihastha life. The centerpiece is, both of us are together in this because we are interested in Krishna. That's the first thing we agree upon. I may have my material differences. I'm definitely different from you. I'm in a female body and I have a certain psychology that goes with it. And all those things have to be looked after. Don't say they are material and reject it. No. Here, the famous Kashyapa Muni is catering to his wife, even though she's out of order a little bit. Although she's out of order, he feels obligated. She's my wife, and I have to settle it. I'm not saying this is what we should do in the regular Grahastha life of Krishna conscious devotees either. But I'm pointing out at how the husband is supporting the wife in her delicate situation. Because similarly, she supports the husband also. So, this is a very important principle. This is the basic principle on which all husband and wife have problems. In the outside in the material world and also inside the devotee world. This is the internal reason always, though it is not cited. It is not cited actually. So, in my so-called little experience, I'm not a Grahastha, I never went through Grahastha life. I understand that it requires a high level of maturity at this point to discuss and do and act in such a way, neither being too rigid nor being too loose, but taking a realistic, practical path. And for the sake of staying together, for the sake of progeny, for the sake of bringing forth children who are Krishna conscious, there are certain principles and there are certain ideals in Grahastha life. And they're challenging in Kali Yuga actually. But those principles can as much as possible be upheld. Then Grahastha life will be smoother. It's got to be lived with a higher purpose. The whole thing is when we have a higher burning goal of principles and achievement and everything, then many of these smaller problems that come can be adjusted for the sake of the higher goal. When the higher goal is not in focus, then these smaller problems become very huge and big and they result in divorce and all that. So when couples have this difficulty of this thing, of misunderstanding and everything, you can understand that they have lost the higher goal. Individually, each one of them sometimes have the higher goal. But jointly, they are not able to have the higher goal. You see, Prabhupada said that somewhere jovially, he said, women are very good, men are very good, but put them together, the combination is not good. The combination is very challenging. So many times you will see that on their own in our society, they are wonderful devotees. When they get together, it's difficult. Hats off to those who are staying together, practicing Krishna consciousness, and they must really be very blessed and very mature. So we need to show to the world also that Grahasthas can live together successfully, more successfully, because of having Krishna in as a common interest and as a common goal, as the artha of life. Prema Pumarto Mahan, the Panchama Purushartha, that is most important for us. And we don't want anything to disturb that. And we're willing to adjust, to compromise, to sacrifice so that that doesn't happen. So the goal is fixed and both of them are having the goal, right? It's not so easy. It's not at all so easy. It is very challenging. But by the challenging situation, you get an opportunity to depend more on Krishna and cry at Krishna's lotus feet. And in this way, you become purified and you become humbled by material nature knocking you. And its surrender is easier. In the material world, especially because we have lived for so many janmas here, got conditioned, we need this knock of Maya. And we need to be afraid of Maya. Then only we can surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada complained that my disciples are not afraid of Maya. So in the birth of Krishna, you will see the description is that Devaki is fear personified of Maya. Kamsa is Maya. And she's dreading Kamsa because he's repeatedly killing her children. What a terrific monster he must have been. So the allegorical, metaphorical understanding is that Devaki is fear personified. And in her womb, Bhakti is taking birth. In the womb of fear, Bhakti takes birth. When you have a healthy fear of Maya, Bhakti takes birth. So when you have a healthy fear of material nature, together the husband and wife will actually fall more towards Krishna, and their life is safe in spite of many challenges, because they tend to always fall in front of Krishna. In other words, they always take the association of devotees, they solve their problems with listening to the instructions of the devotees, they agree we should do it, and they move ahead. So when you have the worst challenge in your life, especially in your grahastha life, with your interpersonal challenge, husband and wife, we should remember these principles. After all, the goal of life is to be Krishna conscious, and me being in a man's body or a woman's body is not really consequential. Of course, it is to some extent in material life, but in the ultimate issue, it doesn't matter who you are, what dress you're wearing, right? So all the philosophy should be very well understood, the basic philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, the culture of respect for each other. Just like here, Kardama, I like that portion of Kardama Muni, very nicely counseling his wife on the sacrificial arena that she has come with the intention of something else. And he is trying to placate his wife, cool it down, relax. And he's trying his best to talk. But he understands that this is not going to work. And Prabhupada is mentioning here, he also is getting attracted to the beautiful Diti. It is mentioned here that she is looking beautiful. After all, she is Kashyapa Muni's wife. So Prabhupada is making a comment here that he got attracted to satisfying her. And he tried dutifully. I'm telling you, this is not good. But I don't know if you say so again. That means that I am not 100% going to enforce this, but it's my dharma to tell you it's not good to do these things at this time. But then if you force me, I may, which Prabhupada is commenting, is he's trying to say that it's because of you. But he also is implicated in it. The type of diplomatic, rational that we pull out from our minds and our intelligence together. The intelligence rationalizes the illegal desire of the mind, and in this way they come up with a good, just like tax consultants give you a good proposal as to how to follow the law plus at the same time not and get the benefit in a different way. And then you're off the hook. You actually got the benefit, plus you followed the law, plus you've done something very smart. So sometimes we are very smart at convincing ourselves through our intelligence, convincing our mind, and taking part in the desires of the mind with the rational. That, of course, is very well thought of. So in this case, it looks like, Kashyapa Muni is succumbing to her, although he's citing the rules, although he's citing the problems and everything, and succumbing to the situation. Of course, it's providential. You can also say that. And the great demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, also have to be born somewhere. And this is a good excuse for them to be born in such type of a situation, conceived in such type of a time. And somebody has to do it. And they become the instruments for that. So, in other words, things have to happen in this world. And it happens to those people who are willing instruments of material nature and the willing instruments also of Krishna through the material nature. You can say that. Sometimes people are not willing to be indirectly instruments of Krishna through material nature, but they want to be directly the instrument of Krishna. Those are devotees. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakriti mashitaha bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhutadim avyayam. So this is direct shelter of Krishna, right? That you can see in the case of Kardama Muni, Devahuti, and you can see many other such great personalities recited about in the Bhagavatam. So the aspect here, after discussing that, the aspect here is mentioned is about the concession for sex life, because it is lust which actually originally is our love for Krishna. Prabhupada very brilliantly discusses this. Love for Krishna as you fall down into the material world. Krishna bhuliya jeev bhogavancha kare nikatastha maya japatiya dhare. So as you fall down into the material world gradually, that love for Krishna, prema, is slowly getting reversed into lust. So everybody in this world who has left Krishna is afflicted with lust, because it is the, perverted reflection of your original prema for Krishna. So reversing lust and changing it into prema is what is Krishna conscious devotional service. So we have to go through this battle internally, externally, and everything. And we have to contain it and transform it into prema, Krishna consciousness. That process is what is yoga. That process is yoga. Therefore, there are restrictions for a civilized human being, that you cannot do certain things. Even animals, although we say you cannot be like animals, but the animals are maybe more regulated than human beings. In Kali Yuga, you can see that. They have a season and a particular time for this. Of course, some are by nature, by species, they're like, the pigeons are like that, the dogs are like that, lusty, this thing, and the provision is made for their lust. And they, enjoy it that way. So if a human being doesn't contain, normalize, control, and stay within boundaries, he cannot be called a human being. Therefore, in a cultured society of human beings, certain boundaries are set so that you may continue to remain a human being. There's all this idea of free sex and free speech and free will and free everything is actually a disguised mode of getting out of the boundaries and becoming animals. Free anything is not allowed for human beings. Human beings have to live by certain moral, ethical codes, religious codes, so that they can continue to remain human beings and have that particular type of a consciousness fit for making progress in spiritual life. The moment you cross these boundaries, it becomes extremely difficult to continue in terms of achieving the goal of life. But that's why these things are mentioned here. It's something for us to think about very seriously and deeply. So our society, especially in Kali Yuga, there will be many grahasthas. And our society is 95% made up of grahasthas in the congregations in this thing. And there are beautiful, wonderful grahasthas who understood Krishna consciousness, that serve the Lord in their houses. The whole family, including the head of the family, all very involved. It's such a pleasure to see everybody worshipping Krishna in the family, chanting Hare Krishna every day, attending Mangalarti, eating prasadam, coming to the temple. This is a pride that we have community made of grahasthas, and they feel very happy being in Krishna consciousness, hearing from the brahmacharis, the sannyasis, and getting guidance and living a good, grahastha life. So we will definitely have in our community a lot of grahasthas, and they should all take these principles very seriously and work towards performing, as Prabhupada is mentioned here, is designed nicely the community, a Krishna conscious community. So we understood from this reading that the wife is very important, womanhood is very important, the female body, although having many different types of other, shortcomings, is still a very important. I mean, the woman is a very important role in varnashrama, in society. Although the other three orders don't associate with women at all, in the grahastha society, in the mainstream society, in the cities, in the towns, and everything, you have grahasthas, and so they play a very important role. And they should remain very respectful towards the sannyasis, the brahmacharis, the vanaprasthis, and remain humble. And in this way, there's a reciprocatory role played. So these things and much more, many more instructions Prabhupada is giving here, brilliant instructions, can become a nice order and a manual for good grahastha life, Krishna conscious grahastha life. So this is cultured society. This is advanced society. These are people who are, interested. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suraya. Divi Vichakshura Tatan Tad Vipraso Vipinyavo Jagruvagam Sasamindate Vishnu Yat Paramam Padam. The real goal of life, Param Padam, is Vishnu. That's the meaning of cultured society. Cultured society does not mean that you look cultured because you're dressed up in the traditional way and you know Bharatanatyam and you know how to play flute and mridanga. You learn from a Carnatic musician. All this thing is not culture. Culture means these core principles. Culture means Krishna in the center of your life. That's the first foundation of culture. And because it's the center of life, because it's most important for me, everything flows from that. My entire material life, my choices, my actions, everything flow from that central principle, keeping Krishna in the center. Right? So these are some thoughts on these few shlokas. Om Tat Sat, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nirantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nittai Guru Premanande. Should I answer any question or comments? I know many will be thinking that, oh, he's a sannyasi, he can very easily speak on this, he can cut and paste and he can say a few things. And what does he know? As though it's a boat crossing the ocean. My boat is full of holes. My boat is broken. I'm sinking. How can you say fort? My fort is completely destroyed. Kali Yuga, who's going to... I mean, there are many things because we can't go into the details. But let's assimilate the principle. In all ashramas in Kali Yuga, there are challenges. It's not only in the Grahastha Ashrama. Grahastha Ashrama, because a huge bulk of a cross-section of a demographic, if you see, Varna graphic, Ashrama graphic, if you see, you will see that a huge chunk of them are Grahasthas, and therefore it's very valuable and important to discuss and work out something. And therefore, I may not be greatly experienced in this, but I'm speaking on the basis of the Shastra principles and my little experience I have. Definitely there are greater, wonderful grahasthas who can give better counsel and understand some of these things better. Om Tat Sat, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any question, any comment?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. What is
no question, comment.
Maharaj, just one observation.